Hello students, in the present video lecture, I'll explain about assembler directives, basic input and output organization followed by few examples. So a computer can understand a patterns of zeros and ones only. That means the computer can understand the language or machine level language informations. However, in order to understand the basic concepts of any computer organization, from the user side, we can write the program in terms of any language like English. So if we write the program instructions using zeros and ones, so from the programmer side, it is not possible to write the program in terms of zeros and ones. Therefore, we can use English words like move, add, branch, increments, etc. For the instruction which have the corresponding binary code pattern to be understood by the processor. So whatever the program is written, so those set of programs can be converted into binary code patterns. When we write the program for a specific processor family, suppose the processor family we considered Intel or Motorola, so these normal words have to be replaced by English-like words called as mnemonics. So we can consider some set of mnemonics while writing the program. A complete set of such mnemonics are called as symbolic names. So these mnemonics are also called as symbolic names. For a processor constitutes an assembly language. The set of rules governing the use of mnemonics in the program is called as syntax of the language. So we can make use of some set of rules which governs the use of this set of mnemonics in the program, which is called as syntax of the language. So assembly language is machine dependent language, that is a program written for an application using Intel processor would not work if the processor is replaced by Motorola processor. So I can say that assembly language is machine dependent. If you are written the program using Intel processor, so same set of program will not work for if you are replace the processor by Motorola processor. Even though the logic of the program remains same. I can say that even though the logic remains same. So we have to change the mnemonics according to the syntax which is defined by the respective processor. So in the case of high level languages like C, so which those set of programs are portable one. Assembly language programs are specific to a particular processor, hence are not portable. The assembly language programs are not portable. So assembly language for a given computer may or may not be case sensitive. For example, suppose if you are considering some set of programs, so I can use the mnemonics like move, which represents the binary pattern or opcode for the operation performed by the instruction. So suppose the used mnemonic, suppose if it is move, so which represents the binary pattern or opcode for the operation which is to be performed by the processor. When writing programs for a specific computers, words are normally replaced by acronyms called as mnemonics such as move, add, increment and branch, etc. So we can make use of some set of English words like move in order to transfer the data between any two registers or between register or memory location. So we can also use mnemonics like ADD, that is add, in order to perform arithmetic addition operation, increment as well as branch instructions. Similarly, we use the notation R3. So R3 is in the sense register R3 or processor register R3, and location in order to refer any memory location. So I can use a register like R0, R1, R2, R3 and so on in order to refer the processor registers, and LOC, that is location, in order to refer a memory location. A complete set of such symbolic names and rules for their use. So complete set of such symbolic names as well as some set of rules which governs a programming language and which is generally referred as assembly language. So what is the meaning of assembly language? Assembly language which is nothing but it consisting of some set of symbolic names like move, add, increment, and branch, etc. and followed by some set of rules. Complete set of symbolic names as well as rules which governs a programming language called as assembly language. So next we'll take assembler directives. So assembler is a system software which translates the program written in assembly language into a sequence of zeros and ones called as machine language. So what is the meaning of machine language? So machine language, in the sense it consisting of the entire program or the entire sequence will be represented in terms of patterns of zeros and ones. So the assembler is a system software which translates the written program into machine level language program. The assembler is stored in the memory of the computer. The user program written in assembly language using an editor consisting of symbols, names and other additional characters is also stored in the memory. When the user wants to execute his program, he can type the commands which invokes the assembler program. The assembler program scans as well as analyzes the syntax and schematics of the user program, and that will generate the machine language program. So for example, if you are considering the assembler, it takes the input as source program. It takes the input as source program and it will convert the source program into object program, and object program can be executed by the processor. Suppose if I am taking the assembler, if I am considering one assembler, so this is the assembler, I can say assembler, which takes the input as source program, so I can say that this is given by user input. So it generally in terms of .asm format. The assembler or system software, it will convert the source program into an object program, so that is the output of an assembler, and format is .obj format, so which is to be executed by the processor. Which is to be executed by the processor. So the user program is called as source program. I can say that user program, the source program is nothing but user program. The user program is called as source program, and the assembled machine language program is called as object program. So assembled after what exactly the output of an assembler? So that is nothing but object program. So this consists of patterns of zeros and ones specifying the user program instructions. So this object program is already converted into patterns of zeros and ones. So these patterns are taken by the processor and it will be executed. So with the help of another system software called as loader, assembler also assigns physical addresses to the instructions of the source program. So in order to assign the physical addresses of individual instructions of the source program, so the system software like loader can be used. So loader is used in order to assign the physical addresses to the instructions of the source program. So next we'll take assembler directive. In addition to providing a mechanism for representing instructions in a program, the assembly language allows the programmer to specify other informations needed to translate source program into the object program. So the mechanism by which the assembly language allows the programmer to specify additional informations required in order to translate the source program or else user program into an object program. So we have already mentioned that we need to assign numerical values to any names used in a program. Suppose that the name sum is used to represent the value 200. So this fact may be conveyed to the assembler program through a statement such as sum equal to 200. Wherever the name sum comes, the value will be assigned with 200. So I can say that where sum is a variable name, EQU is a assembler directive. During the assembly process, when the assembler encounters this statement, it will assign a value of 200 to the variable sum. So while preparing the object program, the assembler will replace each occurrence of the variable sum by the value 200. Suppose we require the value of sum to be 200. If we have not used the directive, then at each appearance of this variable, that is sum in the program, so we have to change the value manually. So that we can make use of assembler directive like EQU. Wherever the name sum comes, the value will be assigned with 200. So when the program is run, the label sum is replaced by the value 200 automatically by the assembler whenever the variable name sum appears in the user program. Assembly and execution of programs. So there are some instructions in assembly language program which are not a part of the processor instruction set. So we are having some set of instructions in the assembly language programs, but those set of instructions are not a part of the processor instruction set. So these instructions are instructions to the assembler, linker or loader. So those additional instructions whatever present within the processor instruction set, those set of instructions are the additional instructions given to an assembler, linker or loader. So then these instructions are called as assembler directives. So those set of additional instructions are called as assembler directives. So to produce an object program, the assembler program has to know some set of informations like how to interpret the names. The first one is how to interpret how to interpret the names. How to interpret the names. The names may be either instructions or labels or else any pseudocodes. To produce an object program, the assembler has to know the first information is how to interpret the names. So names may be either instructions or labels or pseudocodes. The second information is where to place the instructions in the memory. Where to place instructions in the memory. So what is the starting address of the memory to place those set of instructions? So third one is where to place the operands in the memory. Third information is where to place the operands in the memory. So these are the some set of questions we have to consider. To produce an object program, the assembler has to know how to interpret the names. The names may be either instructions or labels or pseudocodes. So second one is where to place the instructions in the memory, where to place the operands in the memory. So this information may be provided using the assembler directives. A simple program structure can be considered in order to identify the names like instructions or labels or pseudocodes, or where to place the informations or instructions within the memory, as well as where we can place the results, that means operands or results within the memory. The assembly language requires assembler directives for performing following basic functions: to indicate starting location of the memory where the data block is stored, and starting location of the memory where code is stored, to define different types of variables, or to set aside one or more storage locations of corresponding data types in the memory, to indicate the assembler about the value of the variables, to indicate start and as well as end of subroutine programs. So commonly used assembler directives are, the first one is origin. So first one is origin. So which specifies or this assembler directive tells an assembler that where to place the data blocks in the memory. So origin specifies where exactly the data blocks can be stored or placed within the memory, or where to start loading of object program in the memory. So from which particular or respective address we can load the starting address of or starting instruction within the memory. So that is the origin directive specifies the starting memory location for data and code. I can say that origin is an assembler directive which specifies the starting memory location for data as well as code. So we can use DB, DW, we can use DB, DW, DD, DO, DQ as well as DT. So these directives are used to define different types of variables, or to set aside one or more storage locations of the corresponding data types in the memory. These are known as data control directives. So DB means define byte, DD means define double word, DW means define word, DQ means define quad word, DT means define 10 bytes. So we can make use of these set of assembler directive in order to define either byte, double word, word, quad word or 10 bytes. So next is EQU. So EQU is an assembler directive which is used to redefine a data name or variable with another data name or variable or immediate value. So basically we are using EQU to specify or define an immediate value. The directive should be defined in a program before it is referenced. So this EQU we have to assign the value before it is used in the program. So I can say that I can consider one simple example, num equal to 200. So num equal to 200. So EQU is an assembler directive which specifies the value of num as 200. ST equal to hello. So the string which is equated to the information is hello here. So I can say that the directive should be defined in the program before it is referenced. Before it is referenced in the program, the value must be assigned. So next we can take procedure directives. The procedure is the programs. The procedure in the programs can be defined by the procedure directive. The procedures within the program which can be defined by PROC, that is procedure directive. The procedure name must be present. Procedure name must be present, must be unique, and must be follow name convention for the language. So for each procedure there will be one procedure name, as well as we need to use the unique and must follow the name convention for the language. After procedure directive, then we can use these set of procedure directives to specify the type of the procedures. So similarly, each procedure directive will be followed by end procedure. So that is also an assembler directive. So I can use end procedure like ENDP, that is end procedure directive. So end procedure directive is used along with the procedure directive, so which specifies end of the procedure. So end P, this specifies end of the procedure. So I can use the procedure directives followed by end P in order to specify the end of the procedure. So next is reserved directive. Next is reserved directive. So reserved directive is used to reserve the number of memory locations for the given variable. So now I can consider one example, num reserve 200. So now we are reserving around 200 memory location in order to store num. So reserve directive is used to reserve the number of memory location. So here what is the number? That is 200. So we'll reserve around 200 memory locations for the given variable, that is num. So that is reserve directive. So here we can consider different assembler directives like EQU, which is used to equate the value 200 to the parameter sum. So next is origin, which specifies or tells the assembler about the starting address of memory area to place the data block. So that is origin. So you can start placing the data from 204 onwards. The location specified in the program is 204. If there is one data, one location is sufficient. Since we considered we have to add around n numbers, we need to specify the length of data block. So next comes the data word. The next is the assembler directive data word, which tells the assembler to load the value n. So that is nothing but n is equal to the value n is equal to 100. The value n is equal to 100. So data word, the length is around n is equal to 100. So any statement that makes instructions or data being placed in a memory location may be given a label. So in order to start or in order to store the data within the memory location, so we have to specify the label. The label is assigned a value equal to the address of that location. Since the data word statement is given the label n. So here we can assume that I have given the memory label as n. So that is for data word I have assigned the label value as n, and the name n, the label name is n here. So which is assigned with the value as 204. Which is assigned with the value as 204. Whenever or wherever n is encountered within the program, it will replace the n value, capital N value with 204. Since there are 100 numbers to be added and each number requires 4 byte space, so total 400 locations are reserved. So we have to suppose if we want to add around 100 numbers. So I have to add around 100 numbers, and in order to store a single number I need 4 bytes of information, or 4 byte space I can say. So I'll reserve around 400 memory locations in order to perform addition of 100 numbers. So here we used a reserve directive. We used reserve directive in order to reserve around 400 memory locations. So similarly, here we are having one more origin, the second origin I can say. So one is assigned here and one more origin is located here with the value of 100. With the value of 100. The second origin directive specifies that the instructions of the object program are to be loaded in the memory. The starting address is 100. So the second origin specifies the starting address of memory, that is 100, from which we can load the program. Thus, when the source program is entered, the first instruction, that is move, what is the first instruction here? That is move n comma r1, move n comma r1. So that is copied to the will be placed at the address 100, and the next instruction in the subsequent locations till a terminate instruction is encountered. So we are having the actual program will start from here, start to this one, followed by return and end directive. So the end directive informs the assembler that this is the end of the source program. So it will inform the assembler that this is the end of the program. End of the program I can say. End of the program. End of the program. So similarly, we are having one more assembler directive, that is return. Statement identifies a point where the execution of the program should be terminated. So return is also an assembler directive which specifies where exactly the program can be terminated. It causes the assembler to insert appropriate machine instruction that returns the control to the operating system of the computer. The source program written in assembly language follows a standard form with different fields like label, operation, operands followed by some set of comments. So I can say that label is an optional name which is associated with the memory address. For example, I can use the labels like, so these are the labels like sum, n, num1, start, loop, etc. So those are the labels. When an IO devices are to be accessed, they need to be addressed. So there are two ways of doing this, like memory mapped IO and IO mapped IO, or standard IO or isolated IO. So in the case of memory mapped IO, the IO devices is also considered as memory, and the memory addresses are used to refer to the buffers as well as registers of the IO devices. So in the case of IO mapped IO or standard IO or isolated IO, the input-output devices are considered as different entities. So we have separate memory space and IO space. Also special instructions like in and out are used to access IO devices. So we can make use of in and out instructions while accessing the IO devices. So in the case of program controlled IO, so this method, the operations are processor initiated. So in the case of program controlled IO, all the operations are processor initiated. The processor checks the device status as well as later it can access it and perform the respective operations using the instructions. So consider an example of connecting a video terminal to a processor. A video terminal consisting of a keyboard as well as display unit as shown in the diagram. So here we can observe that we are having a single bus to which the processor, I/O, that means keyboard as well as display are connected. So the complete circuitry for each device is connected to the processor via a bus. The keyboard needs a buffer register to store and to code the value whenever the key is pressed. Similarly, the display unit is required to store the character sent from the processor. So whenever the key is pressed, the corresponding value can be stored within the buffer register called as data in. So now we consider a task which is in order to read a character from the keyboard, as well as we have to display the same character on the screen. Input data transfer rate is limited by the typing speed of the user, whereas the output data transfer rate is very high since the computer can send thousands of characters per second to the output unit. But the display unit may not be able to accept the characters at that rate. So hence, when I/O devices are connected to the processor, there will be speed mismatch, and mechanism need to be considered is synchronization. So now I can say that whenever the key is pressed, the corresponding character, or it will generate the respective ASCII character, will be stored within the buffer register data in. So now, and we can automatically set the flag register SIN is equal to 1, and processor can read the informations from the data in by checking the flag register SIN. So we can we can consider a program in order to perform the read wait operation. So branch to the read wait if SIN is equal to 0, input from data into R1. So either we can copy the data from R1, so that is data into R1, that means some other processor register, So after that, once again we can write the information from R1. So by considering the status flag bit, that is S out. So if it is S out is set to 0, that is write wait, branch to write wait if S out is equal to 0. So we can copy the value R1, we can copy the value from R1 to the data out, buffer register data out. The buffer registers data in and data out, and the corresponding status flags SIN and S out form part of circuitry known as device interface. So combinedly we can call buffer registers as well as the flag bits, we can call it as device interface. So in the diagram we can perform the read as well as write operation by considering the flag as well as status registers. When a key is pressed, the corresponding character code is stored in the data in register, and SIN status bit is set to indicate that the valid character code is available in the data in register. Under the program control, processor checks the SIN bit, and when it is set to 1, it reads the contents of the data in register. After the completion of read operation, SIN is automatically cleared to 0 in order to repeat the operation, in order to get or in order to fetch the next character from the keyboard. So next we'll take parameter passing. So a subroutine is a group of instructions performs a particular subtask which is executed number of times. To perform a particular task, it is necessary to pass these address variables or data, usually referred to as parameter passing to the subroutine. So we have to perform some subtask and we have to exchange some set of informations or parameters between the main program as well as the subtask. So those set of informations exchanged between the main program and the subprogram, which is called as parameter passing. So there are four ways to pass the parameters, like we can use processor registers to pass the parameter, we can use the memory locations while passing the parameters, as well as we can use pointers, as well as we can use stacks. So first we'll consider passing parameters using processor registers. The data to be passed to stored in the registers, and these registers are accessed in the subroutine top processor the data. In the technique, the main program loads internal registers with appropriate values before calling the subroutine, and the subroutine then obtain these values by referring predefined registers. So in the main program we can observe that we copied the value 08 to R1. So next we called subroutine. So in the subroutine, once again we perform the operation through the processor register followed by the return instruction, and finally we copied the value into the final results into the register R2. So this is how we can use processor register in order to pass the values between the main program as well as the subroutine. So next is parameter passing using memory location. To pass a large number of parameters to the subroutine, then memory is used. So this may be a dedicated section of general memory or part of stack. In this technique, the main program loads the predefined memory location with appropriate values before calling the subroutine, and the subroutine then obtains these values by referring these redefined or predefined memory locations. So we can make use of memory locations while exchanging the informations between the main program as well as the subroutine. But we have to, in advance, we have to copy the parameters into the memory location. In the main program, we can observe that we copied the value into the memory label location called subroutine. In advance, we copied the value to the location. So in the case of call subroutine, move location, content of location to R1, move R1 to location and return the value. Once again we can copy the content of location 1 to R1. So both while exchanging the informations between main program to the subroutine or subroutine to the main program, we exchange the parameter using the memory location. So parameter passing using pointers. In this technique, the main program stores the parameters to be passed in the memory, usually in the consecutive memory locations. Then it loads the internal register pair or predefined memory location with the starting address of the parameter list. The subroutine obtains the parameter by list by accessing it in the sequence from the given address. So we are having the main program. So move 100 R1 call subroutine. So we can copy the content of R1, that is pointer. Content of R1 is copied to R2. Add 8 R2 and return the value. It will return the value over here. So parameter passing using stack. The stack can be used to pass parameters. To pass parameters to the subroutine using stack, it is necessary to push them on the stack before the call for the subroutine in the main program. The instructions in the subroutine reads these parameters from the stack. Whenever the stack is used to pass parameters, it is very important to keep track of what is pushed on the stack and where the stack pointer points all the time in the program. For example, we are having main program move 100 comma R0, push R0, call subroutine 1. So in the subroutine part, add 2 comma content of SP, pop R1 and return the value. So here we have to be careful. We have to identify the data what exactly which is pushed into the stack, as well as so in the case of types of instruction, for example, if you're having one RTN notation as A is equal to B plus C star D minus E plus F plus E. Suppose if this particular equation need to be written in terms of single address instruction. So in order to write the program, initially we can load that is load C. So we can load the content of C to accumulator register. So in the case of single address instruction, we'll be having one opcode followed by source bar destination. So load content of C to accumulator. The instruction load C, it will load content of C to accumulator register. So after multiply D. So now I can have the value in the accumulator as C into D. So after execution of second instruction, the value of accumulator register is nothing but C into D. So after that we can consider add B. Add B means, so now I'll be having the content in the accumulator register like B will be added with the content of previous contents, that is C into D. So subtract E from accumulator. So by that time, so I'll be having the content as, so I'll be initially B plus C into D minus E. So now we perform C into D, minus E, and next consider add F, so that is plus F. So now the content is nothing but, so B plus C into D minus E plus F. Once again we can add A. So finally store the result in A. So I have to store the final result in A. So that is store A. So content of accumulator is stored in A. So this is how we can write A is equal to B plus C star D minus E plus F plus A using single address instructions. So next we'll take zero address instruction. So for example, in the case of zero address instruction, so we have to use stack, and we are having a single expression x is equal to a plus b star c plus d. So initially push the content of a into the stack, So now content of that is TOS, top of the stack, which will be pointing towards the topmost location, that is content of A. Push the content of B, TOS comes to B, add, perform A plus B, so that is add. So push the content of C, so now TOS comes to this location, this one. So now push the content of D, perform addition operation, multiply, that is A plus B star C plus D, and finally pop the content of X. So finally we have to pop the content of X, that is X is equal to A plus B star C plus D. So this is how we can write the zero address instruction using push as well as pop operations. So now similarly, we can write the same example considering 3 address instruction. So while writing the code or instruction using 3 address instruction, suppose if I am having x is equal to a plus b star c. So for that, initially I'll add content of a comma b. So I'll store it in one register R1. So similarly, I'll use one more add operation, add c comma d. I'll store it in R2, and now I'll perform multiply R1 comma R2 and store it in x. So now x is having the value a plus b star c plus d. So this is how we can perform a plus b star c plus d using 3 address instruction. So evaluate a plus b star c plus d. So we have to write the code using 2 address instruction format. So first we'll copy move a comma r1, content of a is copied to r1, add b comma r1. So next move c comma r2, add r2 comma, or else I can say that add d comma r2, multiply r1 comma r2, move r2 comma x. So this is also possible. This is a other way of writing the same code. We will consider one example for Big Endian and Little Endian assignment. In the case of Big Endian assignment, where a word is given the same address as that of the most significant byte of the word. So this kind of assignment is used in Motorola as well as PowerPC processor. Here, high byte of data is stored at the lower address. So that means higher byte of data is stored in the lower address, and lower byte of data is stored at a higher address space. So in the case of Little Endian scheme, where lower byte addresses are used for least significant, that is rightmost bytes of the word. So this kind of assignment or this kind of memory organization can be used in Intel processors. Here, lower address contains lower order bytes of data. So to access a number in a memory, its word address is specified. Similarly, while accessing a character can be accessed by specifying their byte addresses, since each character is represented as 8-bit ASCII pattern. To handle a character string of variable length, the beginning of the string is indicated by giving the address of the first character. The length of the string in byte can be saved in a memory location or processor register. Another way to know the length of the string is to use special control character as the last character in the string with the meaning of end of the string. So in the example we can observe that. So we are having the values 1a, 2b, 3c. So 1a, 2b, 3c, 4d, 5e, 6f, 70 and 80. So in the case of Big Endian assignment, we can observe that the 0th location, so that is the lower address byte. So lower address byte, so we can store higher byte of data. So that means the MSB is stored in the lower byte address. MSB is stored in the lower byte address. So after that I can copy the next byte. So next information, the next is 3C, 4D, 5E, 6F, 7T and 8D. So similarly in the case of big endian, so you can just reverse that. So 80, the last location I can store it in the first. So next comes 70, next comes 6F, next comes 5E, next is 4D, 3C, 2B and 1A. So that means in the case of big endian, higher byte of data is stored at the lower address and lower byte of data is stored at the higher address. But in the case of little endian, lower byte addresses are used for LSB, so that is least significant bytes of the word. So however, the lower address contains lower byte of data itself. So here we'll get the clear idea. So the values are given in hexadecimal format. So I'm having the memory location like 100, 101, 102 and 103, and here we are having the data as 1A, 48, 69 and AB. So now in the case of little endian, we can directly copy the last 1B higher byte address will be stored in this location. So that is 103, that is AB is stored first, 69, 48 and 1A. So this is how we can consider big endian and little endian assignments. So now we'll consider one expression A star B plus C star D, and we have to write a program to evaluate this expression in a single accumulator register. And assume that all values fit in the single accumulator register. In a single accumulator processor, all operations are to be performed on the contents of accumulator. In the given example, we are having A, B, C as well as D, which represents the memory addresses. Hence, the operation is to be done on memory operands. So that we can assume some instructions or opcodes, I can say, load, store, add, multiply while writing the instructions. The memory locations like A, B, C and D can be accessed using it can be accessed using the load, store, add and multiply instructions. The instruction sequence can be written as using one address instruction. First I will consider using one address instruction, using one address instruction, which can be written as initially load A, multiply with B, store it in one more register, I'll take it as F, and load C, multiply with D, add F and finally store the result in S. Store the result in F. Yes. So now F consisting of value A into B, and so here after multiplication accumulator register value is C into D. So now we have to add F means, so here A plus B, it will be added with content of C into D, and finally that value, that is F, content of F is stored in register S. So this is how we can write the code using one address instruction. So now we'll repeat the same problem using two address as well as three address instruction. So in the case of two address instruction, the syntax is operation, source comma destination, source comma destination. So now we can use to address instruction. So this is to address instruction, to address instruction. The syntax is operation source comma destination. So we can write the code like multiply a comma b, that is mult a comma b, mult c comma d, add b comma d, and finally move d comma yes. So this is how we can write the code using to address instruction for the equation a star b plus c star d. So now we'll write the same expression using 3 address instruction. So 3 address instruction. So general syntax is operation source 1 comma source 2 comma destination. So we can write the code for a star b plus c star c like multiply mult a comma b and store it in new register c, multiply c comma d and store it in one more register y, and add x comma y comma s. So that is multiply a comma b, store it in one more register x, multiply c comma d and store it in register y, finally store the result, that is after addition add x. The content of x is nothing but a plus b here, and content of y is nothing but c, so a star b and c star c. So finally we can add these two and we can store the result in the register yes.